Today's forum is the first in our series, Pulling at the Roots of Poverty, presented by CMC and National Church Residences. Co-creating solutions, the new Reeb Avenue Center is brought to us with support from U.S. Bank, Girl Scouts of Ohio's Heartland, Thomas Marker Construction, and Moody Nolan. Please help me thank them and their associates who are here. Now we're done with all the preliminaries. It's my distinct honor to introduce a panel of outstanding leaders in our community. Each of our speakers represents the best of Columbus for their professionalism, their passion for doing the right thing, and making an impact in the right place. So please welcome President and CEO of the Crane Group, Tanny Crane, Donato's Pizza and Jane's Doe's Food Chairman of the Board, Jane Grote Abell. President and CEO of the Mid-Ohio Foodbank, Matt Habash, and our host, and moderator today, Director of Community Strategies, Celebrate One, Columbus Health Department, Erica Clark-Jones. Erica, the podium's yours.
Thank you, Mindy, and thank you, Columbus Metropolitan Club, for hosting a discussion about what I feel is exciting collaborative work on our city's south side. It was exactly 4 years ago this month that Mayor Coleman and some tearful-eyed residents gathered on Innis Avenue to discuss the future of the Southside Settlement House and the building that housed valuable social service programs for seniors, families, and children. According to Mayor Coleman, when he arrived on site that afternoon, he was greeted by a bare-chested man pushing a shopping cart of recyclables whose young son was alongside. After an exchange of words, the mayor admitted that this man made an impression on him because he appeared to have no hope. No hope in the neighborhood and no hope in his future. At the time, saving the Settlement House building was not guaranteed, but a commitment to learning more about the needs of the neighborhood and its residents was made. But it was with the acknowledgement that the city needed partners to help in this urgent work. From there, the Columbus Foundation, St. Stephen's Community House, the United Way of Central Ohio, and Community Development for All People immediately stepped in to continue programs and also worked to find what would eventually be known as a group of Southside champions. Within months, the mayor's conference room hosted 25 residents, private sector, nonprofit, foundation representatives with ties to the South Side, interested to learn more about the challenge and the charge to make an impact in what would later be known as the neighborhoods of the Southern Gateway. Two of our panelists, Tanny Crane and Jane Grote Abell, were in that room in January 2012. The Kelly, Grote, and Crane families and Grange Insurance led the way and planted the seeds for the project that we are here to showcase today, the Reeb Avenue Center, or what the mayor and close partners refer to as the Hub of Hope. By June of 2012, the vacant Reeb Elementary School was acquired in a land trade with Columbus City Schools. The city exchanged the former Woodland Meadows, termed or referred to as Uzi Alley by the mayor. The city exchanged the former Woodland Meadows site on Stelzer Road for the Reeb Elementary School. This one trade provided opportunities to address 4 issues. CCS acquired land to expand the Afrocentric High School. Nationwide Children's Hospital was encouraged to expand further westward. ODOT acquired land to expand the I-70 corridor, and the South Side had one less vacant parcel and a building that could be used for good. From there, the Southern Gateway revitalization efforts took shape. And as many of you know, the work to revitalize a neighborhood takes many. And the Southern Gateway was no exception. I would like to acknowledge our consultant team of Centripetal Strategies, Murphy Epson, Community Research Partners, Parsons Brinkerhoff, Diller & Associates, and Millard Consulting, along with sustained, thoughtful, and diligent efforts from countless residents, 10 civic groups, and multiple public, nonprofit, and private sector partners. The cornerstone of any revitalization effort is investment. The investment of time, the investment in people, and capital investments that pay dividends well into the future. The Southern Gateway and Parsons Avenue core investments are numerous. This investment has primarily and appropriately been directed in the following areas: housing, home and exterior repairs, third space improvements in Southeast Lions Park and the Lincoln Pool, an expanded new Parsons Avenue Library branch, John Maloney Health Center, $25 million worth of Parsons Avenue infrastructure improvements that will start in 2016, and of course, job creation from Nationwide Children's Hospital, Columbus Castings, and many private companies that are expanding on the South Side. But the investment in people is what makes the Reeb Avenue Center and the Southern Gateway efforts so significant. Social investments made by our Reeb partners and our tenant champions is evidenced by the organizations that will call the Reeb Avenue Center home starting this month. The Reeb Avenue Center is collaborative by design, and it will have intentional pathways between the tenants so that each nonprofit can help serve the holistic needs of every person who walks through its doors. A list of each tenant champion and the services they will provide has been placed at your tables for your review, but each are worthy to be named. We are grateful for the faith of the following tenant champions and their investment in the people on the South Side. And as I call your name, if you would please stand if you are affiliated as one of these tenants or on the Reeb nonprofit board. The Boys and Girls Club of Columbus, Eastway Behavioral Health Care, Godman Guild Association, St. Stephen's Community House, Digital Works, Amethyst, House of Hope, Dawson, Sage Sustainable Electronics, the Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Matt, you can stay seated. Community Development for All People, Lutheran Social Services, Southside Neighborhood Pride Center, the Southside Learning and Development Center, and soon to be the Harmony Project in the building as well. This is more than a renovation of a historic school. This facility places education and lifelong learning at the core of its design. Our tenants and partners will create programs that teach and inspire from cradle through career. We would like all of you to join us on Friday, September 25th at 10 a.m. for the ribbon cutting and the grand opening ceremony. I am honored to have served on this worthy collection of projects and am here today in partnership with these champions, along with the countless staff of the City of Columbus and engaged, dedicated residents that are making investments needed to move a neighborhood forward to claim its promise on the future. The champions that you see before you and that are associated with this project are not in name only. These folks are all in. You can find them giving tours on any given day, raising money, and even hosting musical benefit concerts on behalf of the Neighborhood Center. Jane, your family engaged early. What motivated you to answer the call early and get engaged with Reeb?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having us here today. You know, it's been quite a journey, and the three of us are only vessels to be able to share, as you saw. So many people in this room have been part of this vision. I think for us as a family, early childhood learning and development, our first visit was to Southside Learning and Development Center. And I'll tell you, for me personally, it was looking in the eyes of the children on the South Side that were in the Southside Development Center, which is an old building, that inspired me personally to say, we have to do something different. And so my dad and Christina and our family originally started down the path of saying, we need to get these children into a state-of-the-art early learning center. I wanted to do a capital campaign in order to start that path. But what we all realize early on as well is it's unfortunately bigger than that. Early childhood learning and education is important, but these children go home, sometimes to, obviously, broken homes, abandoned homes, and what happens afterwards. So the mayor called my dad and Christina early on, and we sat at lunch, and he asked for a champion. Those of you that know my dad, he said, absolutely, but don't associate my name with it. And the mayor goes, I don't think you understand what I mean by a champion. We're using your name. And so while our family, obviously, it didn't take long for us to say we need to invest in something greater. This is the community we grew up in. My dad started Donato's 52 years ago on the south side of Columbus on Thurman Avenue, and that's our neighborhood. And we believe in really leaving behind communities better than when we started there. And while we still serve there, we owe it to the community to do something greater. And so my first call immediately was my very good friend and partner and an incredible leader was Tanny Crane, right? I'm not stupid. Said, okay, we can do this. We don't know exactly what the vision is going to be, but we do know Don Kelly and Jim Williams have invested in the South Side for many, many years. So as we started meeting actually at Don's house to envision what this could look like with the Community for All People and with Southside Learning Development Center, the Crane family and Tanny came immediately alongside. And that's really when I think the vision became and took full.
That's great. And that leads right to my next question. Tanny, you invested and provided leadership and immediately recruited others. What motivated you?
Jane. No, I'm just kidding. Similar to Jane's story, our family and our company has been invested in the South Side for over 65 years. And it was actually our 65th anniversary celebration that was the time that Jane called, and the mayor, who we all need to recognize as the #1 champion, said we need those people, those champions from the South Side. And you know, we've been there for so long, and we've seen neighborhoods change. We see that on the South Side, 72% of our neighbors live in below sustainable living conditions. We have crime rates, violent crime rates that are 3 times the city, infant mortality that's 3 times the city. And we have to say, we're not going to take that anymore. And selfishly, we want to employ and wanted to employ our South Side neighbors. So when Jane called and we met with the mayor and we talked to our family and we talked to our company and we said, this is the right thing to do. And our father, I'm looking at my brother and others around that Crane table, has always said, our city has been so good to us, we are responsible for giving back. And that was really the impetus for us to give financially, but more importantly, or equally importantly, to give of our time and our resources. So we know from our work in Wineland Park and other neighborhood revitalizations that, as the mayor said, you have to have champions that are going to be around, because this isn't a short-term project, as you said, Erica. And so we knew then that with the Grote Abell family and company involved, with our family and company involved, with the Williams, with the Kellys, that we were starting a core, and the city was right there with us stacking hands. So and then the nonprofits with Community Development for All People, who was there from the very beginning, we knew we had something tangible. And then with Reeb Avenue School, elementary school, if you haven't seen it, is the most beautiful building, and the John Maloney Center. So we knew we had assets to work with. Although, when Jane first took me down there, I thought, seriously? 66,000 square feet of this beautiful building, and we're going to do what with it? So, and it started in, Jim Grote will remember this, sitting in Plank's Cafe at 2 o'clock in the afternoon having our meetings, that we were going to mothball the top floor. I mean, this was a labor of love, and it took the 4 years to get us to where we are, but it started with that nucleus.
That's great. So the next question, Matt, is for you. You are starting a South Side Roots Cafe and Market. As a Your organization provides support to agencies throughout the county. Why are you planting Roots in the Reeb Center?
I think for us, it's a couple things. One is, I had a wonderful conversation with John Edgar, who came to us and basically said, hey, we need some help with the project in the sense that we've got 3 different uses of a kitchen. We were going to have 3 different cooks in the kitchen, using the kitchen. This model wasn't going to work, and we really would like one operator of a kitchen and to do all this work. And I said,
One kitchen, though.
One kitchen. That was it. I heard that earlier story about the one kitchen. And I went, okay, that's great, but we don't run kitchens. But when we got into it, from us, what we were doing at the Foodbank was evolving in our work. And we've gotten bigger and bigger. When I started in 1984, we were giving out 3 million pounds of food. This year, we hit 60 million pounds of food. The good news is there's 60 million pounds of good food to get to people that need it. The bad news is we're giving out 60 million pounds of food. And we didn't want to get bigger. So for us, it became both a feed the line strategy. How do we do really well with fresh food, but also an of how do we really start to talk about ending poverty, ending the line so people don't. So we wanted to create something different. One of the other things that John said to us in that meeting was, we really don't need another free food distribution. So we went back and looked, and we really don't. St. Ladislaus Church is a wonderful partner of ours, directly across the street. So could we do something different? And we wanted to create a market that was low cost. We're getting really good at bringing in produce from all over the United States to the tune of 24.5 million pounds last year. And we can bring in low-cost produce that anybody can buy. And additionally, we wanted to blend in a third-place way of bringing people together across demographic lines to eat in the same space. We all celebrate around food. So how do we do that on the South Side?
Great, thank you. So I'm going to shift a little bit on how you got this done, okay? And that's everyone. Jane, you and Jim Grote and many of your family deeply believe in the power of education. How did you determine the folks that would be in the building and the agencies and attract nonprofit partners to Reeb?
Well, we were fortunate with Mayor Michael Coleman and the Southern Gateway Initiative. That charter was to really canvass the area and find out from over 2,000 residents, what is it you need to get out of poverty? What is that pathway? And so while the canvassing of the neighborhood was going on, we parallel were talking about what is it, not that we want, but what the neighborhood needs. And not even what they want, but what is the need. And so it really boiled down to 2 things. And one is workforce development, so jobs. It's really, really important. And the other part is education. Stable housing, I'll add on, is the third, which is another initiative going on with the Renaissance, which is Don Kelly and my dad and Jim Williams, as well as some other initiatives on housing, because stable housing is critical in order to have job and in order to have education. So we decided to focus on those 2 needs, education and workforce development. The incredible thing about this community, and I know you hear it all the time, and everybody in this room is part of it, is the collaboration that goes on. And so while we have a board, and our board consists of, as a master tenant, we are a nonprofit, of private, which is 3 private, it's 2 city officials, 1 tenant, and 1 community liaison. In that board, our role is to assure that any tenant that comes to that building, which there are 13 nonprofits that are subtenants in this building, has to fulfill the need of education or workforce development. So as we were crafting this vision, we had nonprofits knocking on our doors. And the beautiful thing about when you bring really smart people together, you create a vision that's way beyond anything any of us could ever have dreamt of. So the Southside Roots Cafe is a perfect example of that. And that is getting people in the same room to talk about the needs of the community and how do we fulfill education and workforce development in such a way that we're going to impact lives for generations. And that's how really the ideas, the creativities, the collaboration, and we all know, because now we're a nonprofit for fighting for that same dollar too, that nonprofits are all out trying to do really great work. And now we have an opportunity to put them in an infrastructure where they can have shared services and they can lean on each other. And we can walk one client, one tenant from the Southside Learning Development Center with their child up to Godman Guild where they can get their GED, and their children can go up to the Boys and Girls Club, and they can then go to DigiWorks and find employment. And this is all under one building. So what I love is our nonprofit partners and our champions who came together and said, wow, I don't have to give them a bus pass to go down and go to this particular service anymore. All the services are here, and they're all new in the Southside Community Center as well.
It's great. So part of that sounds slightly revolutionary, and every revolution must be funded. So, Tanny, enter Tanny Crane, right? Tanny, how did you compel the private sector to partner on the Reeb Center and commit to this new concept?
It's been, as I said, a kind of a labor of love. I just want to just add on to Jane's comments about the nonprofit partners. What was really amazing is through our tours, and I think we've done 95 at this point, but every time we would give a tour, whether it was to a state legislator or a county official or state, they'd have another idea. Have you thought about this OSU Extension as a partner, Columbus State Community College? And so, oh, that's a great idea, let's call. And so it really has been an evolution as well, and we've learned as we've gone along that, and we've just continued to bring partners who are willing to be creative with us and co-create as we go along. So we have shared tenants, shared space. That's been remarkable. But then as far as getting private community to be invested in this, not to say that's been easy, but it's been a tremendous process. And I think what the business community sees is it's lifting up. We're talking about lifting up the South Side. This is not about handouts, but it's really enriching our neighborhood. And it's about our neighborhood, and it's for our neighborhood. And what I think our business community has seen, and the private community, the foundation community, and the nonprofits, is we're trying to develop a sustainable model. And so from board governance to building an endowment that goes into perpetuity, and those who are interested in giving to our endowment, ReebAvenueCenter.org. We'll have a box at the door any way you want to do it, still raising it. But we're trying to develop, and this is learning from other efforts. We are learning from the near South Side, from Healthy Communities. We've learned from Wyland Park, from PACT. We're all trying to work together, but our local effort in the South Side, I think, is coming to fruition. We've raised in capital $12.1 million. And that was a result of bringing business partners down to Reeb to see the vision that this community is developing and believing that those dollars are going to give them a great return. It's jobs, as Jane said, and it's education. We're all about breaking that cycle. And so I think that the private community sees that this is a model. We've heard that from the city, we've heard that from the state, the county, that they're recognizing there's something different about this. It's about the partnership, and that the business community is willing to invest in that.
That's great. So Matt, from the tenant champion perspective, right? You're a part of this model that Tanny talked about. You know, I'm going to ask you, even though I don't want to ask you to speak on behalf of all the tenant champions, I'm going to ask you to do this. What makes this project different from the tenant champion perspective?
I think if you just listened really carefully to what Tanny just said, I think it's about connecting to the people. That's different. I mean, I have a great experience. Most of you that know me well know that my mentor was John Maloney in the South. Lived in the South Side. He was St. Stephen's, and we had an example in the early '80s of the Linden Resource Center at St. Stephen's, where John's vision was to bring a bunch of public and private, nonprofit, and government together into the same space. And I had the opportunity to run that space for a year, and we never really moved into what his vision was. You know, we were unable to get beyond what I called co-locating and hiding behind confidentiality as opposed to really what this is being talked about and what I've seen from the conversations I've had with the partners and the work that my team has been doing. It's really, in the language we use, is how do you move from co-locating to collaborating to collective action? That's what this space is all about. And I think that's the unique opportunity for me. And for me, it's coming home, because John used to drag me and Jim Williams and other folks down to breakfast at the old Reeb restaurant. So when I was trying to think of the name, I couldn't remember, and somebody told me at the meeting, that was Reeb Restaurant, that we used to hang out, but it was at 6:30, and John liked breakfast at 6:30 in the morning. And I had 2 little kids. That didn't work real well. But it was really about coming home, and really about how do you really honor. So what Southside Roots and Cafe name was picked by the residents.
That's great. So, Matt, I'm going to stay with you on this because I think all of this is great, but it's about the future, and it's about impact and what we're going to do. How will you measure success, and how will we measure our impact from the tenant's perspective?
That's a question that Kim and the team at the Foodbank, we wrestle with every day. Because we want to move from outputs, which nonprofits are famous for, and counting units of service. We all do that. And in the world of basic needs, you really get away with that a lot. I can just count pounds of food and meals and people served. But the reality of it is, what's the impact of somebody eating? What's the impact of somebody getting a job? And I think that for us, and so we shifted the second half of our mission to co-creating a sustainable community where everyone thrives. So that's my definition of impact.
That's perfect. Ladies, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll add that we, adding on to what Matt said, I always hear the mayor saying that he wants a city where people can live, work, and raise a family. And we want that for the South Side. So we want people to stay in the South Side. Right now, mobility is so high. A child who starts in school in the South Side, 40% of them won't finish the year there. And we want to, really erase mobility and want people to stay on the South Side. But it's very important that, that we measure our results. So we've been working very hard with Mid-Ohio Foodbank on a software system that they have, so that, as Jane described, when single mom Jane drops her son Tony off at the South Side, he's a little larger than that now, back then, but just envision Jane, dropping her son off and then going to Godman Guild, working on her GED and working with Digital Works and getting a job. That we know all the statistics now. That's our baseline. But in 3 years, in 2 years, where is Jane? Does Jane now have a home? Does she have a job? Is her son going into kindergarten ready to learn and on the road to success? And so we are working, co-creating a software system that we can monitor Jane and all of our clients and our neighbors, how they're impacted by that single-stop shop visit to the Reeb Avenue Center. So in time, over time, that we're monitoring results, and if something's not working, we're willing to make those changes. And we're investing with our community to say, what do you need now? What's next? So it's very important for sustainability that we're monitoring not just outputs, but outcomes.
Okay, great. So I spoke with the mayor before this event, and the mayor, when I asked him about the legacy of the project, he said the Southern Gateway and Reeb was not just about public-private partnerships. It was about public, private, nonprofit, and civic, all these areas coming together with the residents. Jane, what do you hope the legacy of this project will be?
I hope the legacy of this project is the people in the community own it, and they believe that it's theirs. And it's not something they feel is being done to them, but they walk in that building and they feel like they own this. And obviously love it to become a national model because we believe it works. Raising the endowment is critical. All of these ideas are important. We are $1.8 million into a $4 million endowment, but the sustainability has to work. So the legacy is beyond that, is that the people, the residents in the community have homes, have stable housing, have education, have jobs, and are able to raise generation after generation after generation on the south side of Columbus. And I would like to just note, and we have done many tours, so if anybody would like to do a tour, we'd be happy to take you, that Carrie Millard with Millard Consulting is truly the hero behind so much of this, whether it's pro formas or the RFPs for security management or property management. She's climbed in windows. She's been stuck in the snow. We've pushed her out. She's She's an incredible leader, but she's also helped us articulate this vision in a way that we are able to communicate not only to you, which is important, but to the community, so that we can get the engagements of not only the head, but the heart.
That's great. Thank you. So I'd like to let the audience know that in a few minutes we move to audience questions, but allow me to ask just one final thought of our panelists. So this is for each of you. If you knew then what you all know now, what would you have done differently on this project? Run, Jane.
Run, Jane, run.
I'll start. I think it's one of those loaded questions. This has been, over the last 3.5, 4 years, such an evolution as we've talked about, and we would never be where we are today with the tenants we have, with the neighborhood involved, with our incredible board, with our great support, if we hadn't taken every step along the way. So I don't think I would change anything, except maybe one thing. There's one guy in this room who is he's a bulldog. And we had him at the beginning of the project. He works for the city, John Hanson. We wish he had him from the very beginning. He stayed with us. He's back with us, and he makes sure that when that building opens, it's going to be spectacular. So I wish we had him all the way through the project. So that would be it.
I would second that, because we're in a meeting, and you got to imagine this. We got invited late into this process. I was driving 3 kitchens. I'm trying to change 3 kitchens. I have a team of people that did a fabulous job, and talk about pit bulls. Jane, and then trying to tell the Moody Nolan team, okay, we got to redesign this. How are we going to get food in the building? All that kind of stuff. We were doing that meeting. One of the questions was, we were trying to really create an ambiance. This is the garden level. We want it to be inviting. Garden level's a half-sunk basement, but I'm not allowed to use the word basement. Don't say basement. I learned that early. But it was, and one of the questions we had sitting in a meeting at Moody Nolan late in the process was, take out the ceilings, the low ceilings. John got on the phone and he goes, well, you better decide right now, because they're there working on it right now. I've never in 14 years of being at the City Hall had something happen so fast in my life. And we now have much higher ceilings in this, and created an ambiance that we really wanted to be inviting. So I would second that. I think for us, and for me personally, this is really, it was a unique opportunity for us to bring a team of people together to really honor the residents of the South Side. And I think that's what this has the potential to do, is to honor the history of the South Side and to really honor the residents. And we've talked over and over again about this is a co-created process. It's not something where you go in and fix something. That's a different way of thinking.
Oh, I have to concur. I think, John, an amazing, and people obviously when they say, oh, well, we are working with the city and state and federal and nonprofits and private donors, and how much bureaucracy is there is the question all the time. And with you on it, it is amazing. You're able to get things done, and your entire team, the entire team from the city has been fabulous. Erica, your leadership on this has been incredible. So I think the coolest thing about this is it's a shared vision, and everybody's part of it. It isn't one person's vision, and it's not something that one person created. Everybody's part of it. So everybody at the table is always, yes, how can we do it? You don't hear, oh, we can't do that. It's always, yes, how can we make that happen?
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. So it is the CMC's tradition to take audience questions. Please step to the microphone, give us your name, and ask your question. And we thank you in advance for not making long editorial comments.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Asmo from Boys and Girls Clubs of Columbus, and we're really just honored to be a tenant. For people in this room who haven't been involved on the South Side or at Reeb that are here today, how can they get involved and help to continue to, move this vision forward?
Okay, I'll start. I was going to say, there's so many ways. Rebecca, thank you for that question. Carrie, what's your phone number? No. So you can go to the website. This is everyone's center, so we really value people. to help out. So reebavenuecenter.org, you can get information there. On September 12th.
You can donate there, too.
Oh, you can donate there. On September 12th, which is a Saturday, and this is speaking out to my family and the company too, as we've talked about all along, this is the community's center. We are going to canvass the neighborhood with 2,700 homes, and we're going to talk to the neighbors about what's about to open in their community. Leaflets, flyers with all the services, Donato's coupons, hopefully some Able Roof koozies and things, and the Roots Cafe brochure. But anyone who would like to volunteer to walk with us, we need many. So from 9 to 12 on September 12th, meet at the Reeb Avenue Center. I was just going to say something else.
We'll give tours.
We'll give tours
and
as
then
well.
We'll canvass the neighborhood.
That's one way. And I've had people come up to me to say, how can they help? Ruth Bell, who is on our board, who's a community volunteer, the idea for legacy for me is that she feels that this is an important element, an important addition to our community. But Ruth single-handedly is going to be staffing the front desk and doing all kinds of things, so she'll need help. And she volunteered. So anybody and everyone is welcome.
One of the ways we're going to make this work is that from the Roots Cafe is having a lot of people as paying customers, number one, paying ahead for other people, number two, and volunteering. And I forget how many volunteer shifts we have, Amy, but there's a lot of opportunity for people to be a part of this and to really make this all work from a food perspective so that we can invite everybody to the space, and I think that's important. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities, and I'm sure if I ran the gamut of all the nonprofits in this room, there will be a laundry list of opportunities for everybody to participate and to make this truly a community effort all the way from the roots all the way through, so that we do create a community where everybody believes we can shift. Nobody believes this can happen. I've had people say to me, Matt, would you stop saying you can end hunger? Because nobody believes you, but me and Marilyn and the rest of my team, But the reality of it is we do believe that. And the only way we're going to make it happen is if we all do it together.
And just to add on to that, I think that's an important part about Roots Cafe, Southside Roots Cafe that is different, is that we are differentiating the way that we feed people that are hungry. And so it's a pay as you can. Pay whatever you can. If you can't pay, that's okay. So we would love for you to come and join us for lunch at the Southside Roots Cafe so that you can pay what you can. And then the tenants or the clients, the residents that will be in the building, they'll be earning points. So when I drop my child off at Southside Learning Development Center and I go get my GED, I scan my card and I earn points so that I can go down to the Fresh Market as well as the Southside Roots Cafe and eat lunch or breakfast. And so, as you can see, there's so many components to this. The Seymour Foundation Institute is also part of it. It's about helping people not become homeless. So there's so many integrated parts to really create such a sustainable vision. We need to have you come down and tour. So people are going to start running from us because we always ask for money. But that's also how you can help.
Thank you.
I'm Adrienne Corbett with the Homeless Families Foundation, and people run from me too, Jane, because they know I'm always asking for money or a favor. As a director of a nonprofit and working in the nonprofit field for so long, I kind of hate to feel jealous of the South Side, but maybe just a little bit in terms of what you've been offering down there. But as I sit and I listen to just the fabulous ideas and the programming and the visions that have been taking place over the last few years, it needs to be replicated. As an organization that is deep in the heart of Franklinton, where you obviously know that, we've got the same mobility issues, we've got the same poverty issues, we've got the same crime issues, and absolutely the same lack of education and readiness for school. It's my hope that we can all learn from this experience and that there can be some opportunity moving forward to replicate it. Why reinvent a wheel when what you've come together is so well thought out? And Matt, I want to talk to you about that software that you have about being able to track people later. But as part of the community, I personally want to thank you for what you've done. I think when any part of our community is better off, the whole community is better off. but then also urge that this isn't a one-time only type of endeavor, that together we can move forward and look at other parts of the community.
I would encourage all of us to think about that, but I think about it from a community-based perspective, not from replicating what happened. It's the journey, of how we got there. It's the learning, and it's finding the champions in that community that makes it. There's great work going on in Wyland Park and on the east side in Franklinton. We need some champions on this, what I call the Cleveland Avenue corridor, clear to 161 now. But think about that. But you got to think about it from how do we really build what matters to that community? Be careful about just thinking we can take this and replicate it. We can take the best of how it worked and do that in partnership with each of those communities. But we can do that. I'm convinced we can handle more than one thing at a time in this community, so let's figure that out. But I also would caution us about being truly honoring, because something Tanny and Jane have both said, it isn't about doing things to people. It's about doing, being in relationship with what's really needed in that community and figuring it out.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Kay Wilson. I'm Executive Director for LeaderSpark in Central Ohio. I wanted to ask a question of you, kind of piggybacking on what she said. In regards to lifting other communities, most specifically, Tanny, to you, and Jane, to you, how do you feel, or do you feel, as an entrepreneur and family-owned businesses, how do you go about lifting up other communities or other private businesses or private people within those communities? Or do you feel that we have enough to go around to have more champions in those particular communities to lift up those communities in those areas?
Well, I believe every one of us in this room has a story, and we all come from somewhere. And it is in each of those communities finding who those champions are, and where they came from. And so for us, it was the South Side. However, we also serve 62 different communities just in the Central Ohio area. And so we are responsible as an employer to do good. And that's why we're in businesses, to serve others the best pizza and make their day a little better. And the best way to do that is to give back to the community. So all of our stores in the communities that we do business have a goodwill budget where we donate back to the communities in which we do business. It's what my dad did 52 years ago. It's what we believe in. And I think every employer, and I know in Columbus, Ohio, every employer has that heart. There hasn't been one business person that we brought to Reeb Avenue that wasn't touched. And I think getting people to see maybe the other side of 670, to see the other side of Parsons Avenue, and getting them there is when you touch people's, not only their head, but their hearts and their wallets.
And I would just add that, similar to what Jane said and Matt said, it really takes champions, and you need to find what their story is. And I think where Wyland Park has been instrumental and packed, and Healthy Neighbors at the near South Side and Reeb Avenue and Southern Gateway, is we are all learning from each other. So we're trying not to make the same mistakes. But what we found is that it is very neighborhood-based, and that we're building from an asset-rich neighborhood. So we had a beautiful building. We had the John Maloney Center. We now have Parsons Village Senior Living right next to us. So we're trying to start with the assets we have, similar to Wyland Park and others, and build from there and find those champions, whether in the nonprofit, or the public or private, and start building a coalition and ensure that the neighborhood is included from the very beginning. So I think that, as business owners on the South Side, that's where we felt our responsibility. But as Jane and Matt said, there are champions all over the city that are not necessarily geographically based, but they have a story and they have a will.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Corinne Warapa. I'm a concerned citizen, and I'm also a volunteer with the United Way of Central Ohio. I appreciate what you've been sharing today. I'm hoping you can give me a specific example, and Tammy tapped on the word asset. We are an asset-rich community. Could you give specific examples of how the residents were an asset in this process beyond the surveys? And also, does your vision, or do you have any visions of transitioning lads to leaders from that very community? I find it difficult sometimes myself to find avenues for young people to engage in the process because of legality issues or concerns about privacy. I didn't know if you had any visions specifically for lads in that community, and lasses, to become leaders in that community. Thanks.
Well, I'll just start by, that's a great question because, and I think everyone has mentioned it, we have felt strongly from the beginning that this is about our residents, about our neighbors. And Erica has a book right there that from the beginning and really through Erica's leadership, that we needed to make sure, we needed to canvass the neighborhood, first of all, to let them know that there is movement afoot, and we wanted to hear, as Jane had referenced the survey, we canvassed over 2,000 homes, that we needed to hear from them. And once we got the survey results back, they were included on committees. We had 7 or 8 committees from housing, health, education, safety, jobs. So they populated our committees. So it's based on what they wanted to see and how they wanted it to move along. And we've also talked about along our process when we're touring, we want the residents to be touring. So on September 25th, when those doors open, the ribbons cut, they're the ones walking in the door first. They're the ones that are opening the doors. They're the ones that are staffing the place. So we, and the Boys and Girls Club, so that those lads and lasses up there on our upper level are running through the building, and they're feeling like this is their building. And through Rebecca's leadership and her team, they're going to be employed in our building or throughout the community. I know one of our tenants is going to be actually utilizing their clients to be staffing some of the Roots Cafe, Godman Guild. So we're trying to bring the residents in, and we brought them in from the very beginning, not just through surveys, but that was important, but through staffing the committees.
That's correct. And I just want to reference the report that Tanny mentioned that we have here is called the Roadmap to Revitalization. Southern Gateway Community Report can be found online at columbus.gov under the Department of Development. We have time for one last question.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Taylor. I understand that health begins where we live, learn, work, and play. Have you considered linking your efforts to health outcomes on the South Side, specifically infant mortality, chronic disease, cancer rates, high blood pressure, things of that nature?
Go ahead.
I think real quickly, one of the real questions we have around in a strategy is what food is health. And so how we connect, so we did diabetes research, a few years ago, really understanding that people that were food insecure, that had diabetes, could they manage their diabetes if they didn't have the right foods to eat? Very difficult to do. And we learned a lot from that. So for us, it's really been about, it isn't just getting healthy food to people, it's can we really see a connection? So the database was mentioned. We're in conversations with the Fairly Qualified Health Centers, including the Maloney Center right there, to begin to, can we marry the data sets? We've had that conversation with Children's Hospital already, so that we can literally make the doctors aware that people are food insecure, and where the doctors know where to refer in their whole teams, people to healthy food. How does healthy food play a role with the Boys and Girls Club and feeding the kids after school, with the daycare and teaching kids early on? Having a good healthy meal for somebody to eat, picking up a kid after daycare, after work, and then go home and say, okay, well, now we're all supposed to go home and cook a really nice healthy meal, with all the stress in life. But the question for us is, can we measure, that's back to Tanny's point and to the question earlier about, can we measure the outcome? So linking it to the health community, breaking down the silos is really what the conversations, we all do really good work in our silos. And the question is, can you take it from a client's perspective or a resident's perspective and really lift it up, but be able to measure the health outcomes? So that's one way we're going to try to do. And so as you really look at it holistically, people that are working, whether they're trying to get somebody a job, a GED, making sure they can stay in their home, it's all interconnected at the end of the day. And so it all has to matter. And I think we're stepping into that work right now in a way that's where the beauty of this is all of the nonprofits with these amazing partners, are coming together and say, how do we do this differently? But really look at, are we making a difference? It's one thing to put a lot of money into a project and then find out you didn't move the needle at the end of the day. So what's it really mean to move infant mortality in the south side of Columbus? What's it really mean to make sure kids are fed at schools on a regular basis and have access to good, healthy food? Those are the kinds of things we're looking to do. So any advice, ideas, things that people have around this? We don't have the answers. We have a lot of questions.
I think that was well said. I think that was well said, Matt. And I'd also like to say it's good that our community, our public sector, nonprofit sector, and private sector are all aligned in trying to make an impact. And so we look forward to good results from the South Side. I think I'm going to turn the podium over to Mindy. Thank you.
Let me just repeat from the introduction, doing the right things and working collectively to make an impact in the right places. We encourage you to continue this conversation in the lobby with coffee and cookies. Those of you who know me know I'm a big fan of the cookies. I should stop saying that because then you all eat them. Remember that you can view and share all of our forums on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide through the Ohio channel, and anytime on CMC's website via YouTube. Before we conclude, please help me thank our forum sponsors, U.S. Bank, Girl Scouts of Ohio's Heartland, Thomas and Marker Construction, Moody Nolan, our series sponsor, National Church Residences, and our speakers, Tierney Crane, Jane Grote Abell, Matt Habash, and Erica Clark-Jones. And thank you all for coming. We hope to see you at CMC again soon.